On April 15, 1912, right around midnight, the largest moving object ever built by human hands slips beneath the freezing waters of the North Atlantic. Weighing in at roughly 46,000 tons and stretching nearly 900 feet long, the RMS Titanic was a floating city. She carried over 2,200 people, a mix of the world's wealthiest industrial elite in first class and hopeful immigrants seeking a new life below deck. The White Star Line engineered her to be a marvel of modern maritime technology. The press and the public eagerly bought into the marketing, proudly crowning her the unsinkable ship. We all know an iceberg brought her down, but that single block of ice hides a much deeper story of mechanical failures, ignored warnings, and fatal human errors. Let's look at what actually doomed this vessel, and if you enjoy diving into historical mysteries, make sure to hit subscribe. When a design is marketed as infallible, the focus on emergency preparedness often disappears. On the Titanic, the assumption of invincibility dictated everything from the speed maintained in ice fields to the amount of safety equipment kept on deck. The evening of April 14th was dangerously deceptive. The ocean was dead calm, which meant there were no white breaking waves at the bases of icebergs to give away their position. Meanwhile, operators in the radio room were receiving multiple warnings from other ships about ice fields ahead, warnings that largely went ignored. Up in the crow's nest, the lookouts faced a critical disadvantage. Due to a last-minute crew mix-up before leaving port, the lookouts didn't have access to binoculars. They were scanning a pitch-black, freezing horizon, relying entirely on the naked eye. At 11:40 p.m., they spot the massive shadow of an iceberg directly ahead. The crew desperately tries to turn and reverse the engines, but they are completely out of time. The ice scrapes along the starboard side of the hull. From the deck, the impact barely feels like a vibration. Below the waterline, however, the damage is catastrophic. This diagram shows the ship's primary defense system, 16 independent watertight compartments in the lower hull. The ship was engineered to stay afloat even if up to 4 of these specific sections flooded entirely. The iceberg's impact caused a sequence of breaches stretching across 6 compartments. This exceeded the ship's buoyancy limit, dragging the bow down until water began spilling over the top of each supposedly watertight wall. Once the sinking became mathematically inevitable, the crew faced their deadliest logistical failure. There were only 20 lifeboats on board. Combined, they held enough seats to save roughly 1,178 people, about half the total souls on the ship. The iceberg initiated the disaster, but the inadequate hull design and a severe shortage of lifeboats guaranteed a massive loss of life. But was the Titanic doomed before she even left Southampton? Over the years, several physical and systemic anomalies have surfaced, pointing to deep structural flaws. For decades, historians have investigated the coal fire theory. Evidence suggests a smoldering fire had been burning inside one of the ship's massive coal bunkers for days. This intense heat may have severely weakened the steel hull in the exact location where the iceberg struck. Then there is the metallurgy. Studies on the recovered wreckage indicate that the iron rivets used in the bow contained high concentrations of slag. In extreme freezing temperatures, these cheap rivets became dangerously brittle, violently popping off under the immense pressure of the collision. The tragedy compounds when you look at the surrounding waters. Another ship, the SS Californian, was stopped in the ice field close by. Her crew actually saw the Titanic's distress rockets lighting up the night sky, but completely failed to interpret them as an emergency, costing hundreds of potential rescues. You might also have heard the conspiracy that the Titanic never sank at all, that the White Star Line sank her sister ship, the Olympic, for an insurance payout. Historians overwhelmingly reject this. Physical evidence from the bottom of the ocean confirms the wreckage bears the Titanic's unique construction numbers. Grand conspiracies are tempting to believe, but the reality is much more sobering. The ship was destroyed by a boring, compounding sequence of cheap materials and institutional negligence. 2 hours and 40 minutes after the crash, the structural stress became too much. The ship snapped in half and plunged to the bottom. Over 1,500 people were left behind in the freezing water, where extreme hypothermia claimed their lives within minutes. By the next morning, the Carpathia had rescued the roughly 700 survivors, and news of the catastrophic death toll hit the mainland. The world was utterly shocked that the marvel of the industrial age was gone. The wreckage sat undisturbed in the pitch-black abyss until 1985, when a joint expedition finally located her. Today, she rests roughly 3,800 meters deep, slowly being consumed by iron-eating bacteria. The staggering loss of life forced an immediate overhaul of global maritime law. Because of the Titanic, ships must carry enough lifeboats for every passenger. 24-hour radio watches became mandatory, and an ice patrol was established to track dangerous icebergs. Modern maritime safety is a direct response to the specific failures of 1912. Every lifeboat drill and radio check performed today is an inheritance of the lessons learned on that April night. If you found this dive into history fascinating, leave a comment with your thoughts and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this.